Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Connor, and today I'm going to be going over how I started making a lot more money by doing a lot less. Let's get right into it. So, about 12 months ago, when I really started my first business venture, I really got stuff going. I started to have some money come in. Um, I was putting so much time into my business, okay? So, I had some money. My money was definitely going up, but at the same time, I was very, very time poor. As far as my social life, I was definitely not prioritizing that. I wasn't talking to as many people. I was pretty much only prioritizing having to go to the gym, going to school, and then the rest of the time was pretty much put towards my business. And during that time, I believe like, hey, if I really want to keep the momentum going with my business and keep making more and more money, I have to keep putting the work in like that. And then very, very recently, one of my mentors who I was talking to, he brought me to this idea of having a baseline. And that's pretty much what I'm going to be covering in this video. If you can really, really stick around for these next 5-10 minutes and understand the outline and concept of having a baseline, I promise you it will change everything for you. So I'm going to draw that out right now and then I'll come back. So I decided that I'm not going to draw it all out beforehand. I really want to walk you guys through it as I'm putting it together. So what is a baseline? A baseline is essentially like the least that you're willing to take. So before I get into that, there's something that I want you to think about with your business. Having an MVO, minimum viable offer. So depending on what your service is or what your product is, you always want to make sure that you have an MVO, and you really want to put a serious amount of time into crafting that. Okay, so let's say that your service is like, for example, digital marketing. Okay, when I do digital marketing and stuff, I do not offer content creation. I do not offer SEO. I just focus solely on what's really going to help them. And how I do that, actually, I'll draw that up. So MVO. So here's a chart. So let's say, for example, it was the rule. It's called the 80-20 rule. So 80% of work, 20% of work is 80% of like the results. Okay, so there's going to be one factor that's controlling a lot more than other stuff. So for example, digital marketing was about like 90%, and then SEO, content creation, let's say management for social media. So people that have these social media marketing agencies, most people offer all of these. They offer digital marketing, SEO, content. They also offer management. And sorry, this is really sloppy. I'm just gonna craft this out super quick. And then you can see like this is 3%, 3%, 4%. And so people most of the time are putting the same amount of effort into these as they are the digital marketing. And so what I did was I said, I'm not gonna craft this. I'm not gonna do any of this, but maybe I'll drop the price because it wasn't worth it. These were only getting 10% of the results, and digital marketing was getting the 90%. So that's really what mattered, and that was really what was going to keep my clients retained. And so if I devoted the time that let's say that it was fractioned out evenly. Let's say I was putting 25% into this, 25%, 25%, 25%. If these are only getting 10% of the results, then I can take away 10% of the price that I'm charging and use that towards someone else. So 25%, I can have 3 other clients with that 25% with this that I'm offering right now. So I just multiply my money by about 4 just by dropping this kind of stuff, by realizing what's really going to get the results. Okay, so once you have this drawn out and you really figured out like what is your MVO, what is your offer. Let's say you're selling a product in e-commerce, what is going to have the highest margin? And when you're figuring out the highest margin, don't just factor in the initial cost of the product or any of that stuff. Factor in the cost of advertising. What's going to cost you a lot to sell a product? Because I'm telling you right now, I could have $1 million come in one day, but it might be $10 million worth of ad spend. It doesn't matter what your revenue is, it matters what your profit is. So you always want to craft out what's going to be your MVO, what's costing you whatever's costing you the least amount of time, the least amount of effort, but it's getting the most results. It's all the 80-20 rule. 20% of your efforts, you're going to get 80% of the results. And then you're going to have 80% of other stuff. In this case, it was 75, but at the end of the day, it's probably 80. And this stuff is only controlling 20% of it. Okay? So now that brings you to the baseline. You figured out what your MVO is. You figured out what you want to do, what's going to get the best results within your service or whatever products you're selling. And then let's say you run an agency. Okay? So the trick is to stay consistent is you have to look at it as the person that lays one brick a day will be a lot more successful than the person that tries to build the whole Colosseum. Okay, so that's a saying that I heard, and I really, really liked it, and I really, really agreed with it. So we all have those friends that talk about a venture or an entrepreneurial idea, and they only act on it for one day. Maybe they punch it out for one day, and they work their ass off, they don't get results, and they quit. Or maybe even a week, or maybe even a month. That's bullshit. And a lot of the people watching this, they take certain courses and stuff like that online, and they're putting this money towards it, and the guru promises results within like 30 or like 90 days or so, and then they don't get those results, and they're not happy. What I want you to remember is the average income of someone who graduated college within the first 3 years after, their income was about $60,000 to $70,000. So if you're not making six figures within the first week, don't give up. And obviously I was exaggerating that. If you're not making six figures in the first 90 days, but you're seeing progression, keep working. Don't stop. Momentum is what matters. So the baseline, you're laying one brick a day. So essentially, let's say cold calls, for example. Okay. So people start this agency. They got their site put together. They have their ideas. They know their service. They studied. And they go out the first day and they make 100 cold calls. And what that's called is using so much willpower. Okay. The trick is to not use as much willpower. And how do you do that? You turn it into a habit. Okay. How many days or how many times does it take doing something to make it a habit? About 30 times. And you can look that up and you can study that. It takes doing something consistently about 30 times to really make it a habit. Okay. And so let's say you're getting started. I would not encourage you to make 100 cold calls the first day. That's how you get burnt out. That's how you lose motivation. That's ultimately how you fail and go back to your 9 to 5. So you want to start off by making, let's say, for example, 10 cold calls a day. 10. Just 10 a day. So you start at 10. Okay? You're doing 10 for a while. Let's say for like a few days. I'll just put this as 1 to 3 days. You've seen results. Once you have like about 30 calls or so, that's sufficient enough to really give you some data back. So you know what you're saying that works. And by the way, side note, if you're starting to cold call and you're really getting started with an agency, I really, really, really recommend that you start recording your calls. That is how you understand what's registering with clients, and you write down what words work with different niches. So if you're just calling prospects, depending on the niche that they're in, definitely record the call, study it, figure out which words or phrases really hit them and correlate with them. Figure out which ones like open their eyes and just like force them to open up and get more comfortable with you. Okay, so 1 to 3 days, 10 calls a day, you have 30 calls, and you really have some data back from that. And you're not burnt out at all. You're trying to understand what you're doing. And the thing is that right here, you probably used about 10% willpower. So that is really, really good. And that is exactly what you want to do. You want to keep it around like 10, absolute max, probably about 50%. And that's when you're really pushing it. You never want to go to 100%. And I'm probably the only person that wants to tell you this, but once you understand this and you really get it and start implementing it, it's good for you to feel like you're not doing enough. That means you're using a good amount of willpower and you're going to be able to stay consistent and not get burnt out. So maybe you've done 1 to 3 days, and then after that, your willpower, maybe it's lower. Maybe it started at like 20% and it went to 10. Okay? So then I would suggest that you go up to 20 calls. 20 calls for a few days. See when your willpower is going to go up. It's going to take a lot more effort to do at the beginning. But once you feel like you're not doing enough for like 1 or 2 days, go up to 30, 40, 50, 60, and just keep going up and up and up. And once you figure out what works, if you really want to be efficient and lower your willpower, get it to 100 calls a day, but have someone else do them for you. Okay, hire a salesman. Teach people how to do it. Once you're like, let's say for example, 100 calls in. Once you made like 100 calls, so that's only like a couple weeks or so if you're really starting at 10, you really understand what works and what doesn't. And you can really give the people you're teaching an outline of what works and what doesn't, and then they can do the work for you. And that's ultimately the trick. Having people do the work that you don't want to do. But if you give them the proper training, then they're going to be able to make money off of it too. And when they know that they're going to get paid, then it takes not a lot of willpower from them. It's like doing a school project. For any entrepreneur out there, if you have to do a school project and you don't see the end result as being like worth it, then your mind obviously, let me say that again. So I watched a documentary on Jordan Belfort, The Wolf of Wall Street, and he was advising people that when your brain doesn't register an end result as worth the action, it's automatically not going to put as much effort. That's why I don't know if I'm the only person that does this, but the project can seem very small and like it's not that hard, doesn't take that much time, but I just see no result, and it's just so hard for me to do. Like I can put so many hours, so much effort, and just be like laser focused on something that I see a result for, or that I see beneficial towards myself, but just doing something that's not going to benefit me or even anyone else, and really just putting time on it, it is so hard for me to do. So what do I do when I really got to get something done, but I can't get myself to? Or I don't see the end result as being worth it. But I know it is. Maybe subconsciously, my mind is not registering it as worth it, but I know it is. And I know that's kind of hard for you to understand. But really, like, what I mean by that and what will solve that is being able to write out and, like, figure out the end result. Like, I have this thing that I put together for myself actually pretty recently. It's called the Alchemy of Self. So I put it together, and essentially I basically told myself who I want to be. Billionaire, reformer, revolutionary, contrarian, titan, icon, god, genius, philosopher. So whenever I have something that I have to take that I know is going to be worth it, but subconsciously my mind's not registering it as worth the effort, I look at that, or I look at just anything that motivates me. I really look into the future. Long-term thinking is what's going to make you successful. And I just push myself. I tell myself, like, that's what it's going to take to get there. That's what it took these other people who have already achieved what I want to do to get there. And so I really want to focus on this baseline thing real quick. You're lowering your willpower every single day so you don't get burnt out, and you're being more and more efficient with less and less effort. So as you get your baseline up and you start having other people to do it for you, start talking to people, training them, everything else, you're doing so much less work. And so when I was when I was doing more work and stuff, and then I went from doing that to taking breaks and like traveling, just going to the beach. The beach isn't that far from my house, or just going to like LA and stuff. Which if you follow me on Instagram, you'd see that I've been doing a lot more outside and been a lot more active on Instagram. I was actually not just making the same amount of money, but I started making even more. And why was that? Because I kept my willpower low. I wasn't putting a crazy amount of effort into it. I would make sure my willpower is lowered at all times, and I would start at a low baseline. But this baseline concept is not going to work for you if you do not take action every single day. You need to stay consistent. You need to keep doing 10, 10, 10, 20, 20, 30, 30, 30, and never go down. Never go down unless you're fucking dead. But you never want to lower. You want to stay consistent. And that's how it goes up and up and up. That's how you get more data back from the market. Because what determines if your product or service is good or not? The market. That's literally the only way. You can have any professional business person, any billionaire, and ask them how good your idea is. But if the market doesn't think so, it doesn't fucking matter. Because no one's going to be paying for it. No one's going to be buying it. It's not going to hold up. And it's going to be blown out of there very, very fast. And so I want to wrap this up pretty quickly. But essentially, really what I want you to take away from this video, when you're figuring out how you want to do less work and start making more money, like this whole video was supposed to be about, come up with an MVO, minimum viable offer. Figuring out what's getting the most results for the least effort. And like draw it out. Draw out your service or product or anything else and figure out what's the main thing that's getting the most results. And then what do I just have as backup, so when I'm on the call with the person or when it's just on my site, they just have some fluff. What's that? So you can just cut it out, lower the price if you have to, and then sell more volume. And then as far as the baseline, start at 10 a day if you have to make cold calls for your business. Start at 10, or just start with a low number of anything. Make sure your willpower is low. That's how you don't get burnt out, and just stay consistent. That's one thing that I do. There's so many people that I guess put more hours than me into my business, but I am more consistent than anyone else that you meet. Every single day I devote the time. My schedule forces me to. I set alarms and everything else. And that's how I make sure that I get everything done. I make sure I'm consistent. And ultimately, I make sure that I'm bringing out my baseline so I can get the most results. So, MVO, having a baseline, and just cut out all distractions. Give 100% focus. Schedule it too. So when you have your baseline drawn out too, make sure that you have a schedule in place where you know that you're going to be getting it done. Okay? And so that's all for today. I appreciate you watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm not going to be uploading twice a week anymore. I'm going to focus a bit more on my business and other stuff. But once a week from now on. And make sure you follow me on Instagram if you haven't already. But yeah, thanks for watching.